The Nebraska-Colorado game, which will be week 2, 6:30 under the lights at Memorial Stadium. Matt Rule was asked that question on Sports Nightly last night about his thoughts when he saw that game. And as you would anticipate, he is a big fan of having that game at night. Now, what I love about Matt Rule on what he said, but more importantly, what he didn't say. This was the quote from last night. So this is great for our fans. This is great for the game. For our guys to have a chance early in the season to go out there on national TV and show the country the work that we've done and the team that we have. I'm excited. Should be an amazing, amazing football game. So what wasn't in that quote that I just read you, I was listening to it last night. He said, they got us last year. And then he went on to say, and to have them here and then he goes into for our guys to have a chance early in the season to go out there and show the country all the work we put in. So he didn't get into the whole, and it may have been easy to do. They got us last year. They're coming to our place and we're going to try to return the favor, or we're going to try to even the score, or anything that would have been completely acceptable to say when referring to that game and the type of anticipation, the type of animosity that is going to be on the Nebraska side of it from both the players, at least what I would anticipate, and the fans. He didn't go there because you know why, Jimmy? Not that I think he even gives a rip anymore, but that would have been taken out of context and it'd be like, Matt Rule is stating that they will get their revenge on Colorado. They will even the score. And then Deion would pop his head up and be like, what?
Leave.
Did you guys ask for me? I got time. Let's talk about this. He's not going to play that game. Matt Rule is not going to play that game. But then later in the conversation, he brought up something about recruiting with June being, and as we get into June, you have all the camps going on. And I think it was Jessica Cootie who asked him the question about the opportunity that some of these, whether they're in-state guys or guys that you're just recruiting to get to your camps, when they have a chance to showcase what they can do at a camp and then they're given that offer after camp, what that feeling is like. He used the word arrogance when referring to, now he was talking about himself. He said, I'm not arrogant enough to watch a guy's film and claim that I know exactly how he's going to be able to, and I'm paraphrasing that part of it, but he did use the word arrogance and saying that I'm not arrogant enough to be able to look at a player on film and be able to judge what his ultimate talent is. And I thought that was an interesting way of going about it, because what is a lot of the conversation, the narrative around what Nebraska is trying to do from a recruiting standpoint and what everybody knows Colorado does, and prime what Deion Sanders does when it comes to recruiting. It's, well, he's not taking visits. It's more of they'll come to me. I don't need to go to them. I don't necessarily know if Matt Rule was using that as this is how certain people do it. I might be trying to create something that is clearly not there. I understand that. But I thought using the word arrogance was an interesting way of describing that this is something that Matt Rule doesn't have. He's more of I need to see the person in person. I need to see that player in person. I need to watch them with my eyes in front of me running around and doing some of the different things to display a certain skill set, as opposed to watching film. Because you could see some coaches, and I think Matt Rule is the furthest from a non-smart coach. I think he is extremely intelligent when it comes to the way he goes about things and the way he evaluates. And I think he has been able to articulate that in not only here in Nebraska, but in previous stops. But you would hear coaches maybe in that situation saying, I'm not smart enough to be able to watch film and not have the kid in person to be able to evaluate. The fact that he used the word arrogance, I don't know. Maybe I'm trying to create something that's not there. I felt like that was an interesting way to put it when it comes to people who do not maybe see as many athletes in person as opposed to the many coaches who do have camps and see athletes in person. Call that what you will. Maybe I'm trying to drum up something. I might be trying to stir the pot, but that's the beauty of this whole thing. And we learned this yesterday in our poll. We don't need to drum up that. Nothing needs to be drummed up between these two schools. Nothing needs to be drummed up between this opportunity that Nebraska will have to, before this series takes a break, and maybe takes a break for good, maybe it comes back. Don't know. Don't know what the future is going to look like when it comes to scheduling. That Nebraska can try to get the last laugh on Colorado. That unfortunately has had Nebraska's number even when they've played each other here out of conference as of late. That I feel yesterday, and we'll use the context of the poll we had yesterday, where, again, I'm still convinced that there's a lot of people that are in denial when it comes to Iowa, Colorado. But I will respect the poll results. Jimmy,
What are the poll results?
I will respect the poll results because they were overwhelmingly
75% of Nebraska fans, and we had a lot of them vote on our poll.
This was nearly 2,000 votes yesterday.
75% says, "Shut it, Nick Hanley. We hate Colorado more." Those
I
Iowa
don't think
people,
they necessarily said,
actually
"Shut it."
They have some nice people in there.
What was really funny, though, so I was reading some of the comments.
Iowa over Colorado if the two played. Of course, some people said sinkhole, respectable response. Never does happen. Trust me, Missouri played K-State. I tried to hope for it.
I've actually found some of the comments interesting. One guy, this was Michael, said a majority of Iowa fans I've met and talked to are actually pretty cool people. The trash talking is what you'd expect, but it's all based in a rivalry. CU fans are toxic, even the Dion bandwagons.
They like to get under your skin, Iowa fans.
It's
more like we would like to score more points than you, fellow university football college athlete.
You're sounding like a former president all of a sudden. I don't think you meant to do that.
I don't think I meant to do that.
Yeah, you started saying, okay.
I'm just trying to say it's civil. Best of luck to you, fellow Americans.
Yeah, and I've brought this up many times, and this was part of my argument yesterday of Iowa, is you're inundated with so much more Iowa talk, Iowa fans, whether in Omaha or everywhere, because they have a strong fan base. They really do. I have two people that are extremely good friends of mine that are diehard Iowa fans.
And even I've learned being here,
they will
good number.
They take every opportunity to talk the trash, and I always felt like that gets under the skin when there's no real major CU presence.
Fun.
It's fun, but when there's no major CU presence that lingering effect. See, that's what to me always stings.
See,
when
Josh
a team
came
beats
downstairs yesterday looking for you. He had a piss bomb. He was going to throw it at you. And I was like, "No, Josh, don't do it.
He's the only one.
You have to take the high road here."
He's Omaha's Colorado fan.
I was like, be like Rick Neuheisel.
Well, there was
run our bracket poll next year.
I'm not going to try to go back on yesterday and rationalize my thought on it, but I think to this point, and again, I respect the results of the poll. There are a lot of people that maybe I misjudged as far as how much they truly do hate Colorado, even though it's not been a consistent game between the two. And I think the Deion Sanders effect is also going to add a little bit to that. But yeah, there's a lot of responses, a lot of them acknowledging Iowa, because I said the people who are choosing Colorado are not acknowledging Iowa. There are people that are acknowledging Iowa and that they dislike Iowa, but it's for a different reason, or it doesn't maybe drive up the same type of emotion as either previous experiences with Colorado. I know some people clapping about the Deion effect. So whatever the situation might be, this thing, as we get closer to it, I think we can all agree that it is going to be theater like we've never seen before. And a lot of it, which is, I'm pretty convinced, is not going to come out of Lincoln. And this is the other part about that old series between Colorado and Nebraska, is it was very similar. It was a lot of, hey, trying to get your attention. Hey, Nebraska, we're trying to get your attention. All right, if you're not going to listen to us, we're going to start saying some things to you. And we're going to start talking about how, they're the real black shirts and all these different things just to try to get your attention. And, give Colorado credit. There was a moment that they did, because they did it on the scoreboard. but there was always that nuisance factor of you're just trying to try to keep your cool and then let your play do the talking. There'll be no shortage of talking on the Colorado side of it. They were on the line of being the heel a year ago. We've got receipts. It's us against the world, us out to prove everybody wrong. Well, then you end the season the way that you did, and you only get 4 wins out of that great start that they had. And now all of a sudden you're just fully embracing the role of the heel. And so any little thing, this is why I bring up the conversation last night on Sports Nightly, any little thing that Colorado can take either somewhat within context or out of context to not only fire them up internally, but also use it for some of the public narrative as they get closer to that game, it will be used, and it's only going to get louder and louder as we get to that game in week 2 of the college football season.
Here's the thing that I always say. You have people that get all worked up over Deion and Colorado, and people get angry, and I'm talking about people that interact with us, listen, whatever. Don't you secretly like it, though? Isn't it fun?
Oh, it's great.
You don't have any of this in the Big Ten anymore. Like, this is fun.
See, this is the off-season stuff.
When this used to be in every year. Obviously, I'm just talking about having a heel.
Yeah.
Well, if you're
this
Nebraska
is the
fan,
off-season stuff in the college football that I actually like. I'm tired of all of the different policy changes in the future of college football. That's why I hate the college football off-season lately. These are the things, even when you know that we're how many weeks, how many months, how many days away from a season. These are the types of preseason back and forths that I actually do enjoy. It's not what's the conference going to look like?
So when
expansion.
When Deion runs his mouth this summer, and he will, and you get all wound up about it, just remember, I kind of miss this.
You
need this. You need it. Nobody in the Big Ten is going to, Bert's not going to say mean things about Rule Nebraska, and it can get that from PJ. That's what's missing. This used to be the norm. So.
I mean, even to an extent, it's
even the fact that we're talking about it now.
The Michigan-Ohio State rivalry, I feel like that's more left up to the fans because the amount of pressure that Ryan Day has to get Ohio State back to winning that game, the amount of pressure that Sharon Moore is going to have in replacing Jim Harbaugh. They've got their own things they've got to worry about that they're not going to get off track by all of a sudden getting into some war of words between the two schools. And that's not to say Deion Sanders. Yeah. And so
this
I feel like
the Ryan Day story. In
that but don't you agree? It's more of, hey, fans, you guys can talk all the trash back and forth as much as you want. And you're right. They do. They'll do it. They're doing it now. They're going to do it in June and July. They're going to do it throughout the season. And it's not to say that Matt Rule and Deion Sanders don't have enough that they need to focus in on. But that's the problem when you don't have this very large fan base. You're going to get an occasional Colorado fan to point at the scoreboard or to clap at it. But
people forget Deion was always such a great marketer. When he played, we forget because we focus on the fact that he was such a great player and larger than life, but he's always been a fantastic marketer. The fact that, and I know this is Omaha, but if he can get someone talking about a week 2 game in May, and I know this is Nebraska, but you're talking about Colorado, Nebraska. First of all, you're talking about Colorado, Nebraska. That just sounds right. Even saying that, I feel like I'm home when we're talking about those two together. And that's even before you get into the storylines beneath it. But Deion doing this is good. You're going to miss this when they're not on the schedule because nobody else is going to do that. And this sounds like I'm defending. I'm not. I'm trying to see it. Jack here tweets at us because this is good. This is fair. He says, for me, it's the Shadur factor. Can't stand the guy. As soon as he's gone, it'll be Iowa for me again. So he's more Team Hanley here, but gives a really good reason why he's not at this instant.
Yeah. Oh, and I think the characters, the players, the personnel, the voices all have something to do with this. This is an interesting email. This is from Zach. It says, way more history versus Colorado than Iowa. The rivalry with Colorado was organic and developed over generations. Iowa was forced when Nebraska joined the Big Ten because they were closest geographical opponent in the Big Ten. If you look at the downfall of Nebraska football from the top of the college football, you could argue that Colorado is the program that landed the first blow to start the fall. I agree with the last part of that. Yes. And remember the year that the last time we saw Nebraska in a national championship game and they got throttled by Miami, go back to the previous time we saw Nebraska, they got throttled by Colorado.
When no one had done that.
Where I would push back a little bit on Zach's thought is, yes, the history, he's also right, because, you had the Big 8, Big 12 days. But as far as the Colorado rivalry being organic, I disagree with that.
Well, you said it yesterday. It was a good point.
Yeah, that was
McCartney. Even said
that was McCartney calling out Nebraska and forcing that. Nebraska's rivalry was OU. They did not even consider Colorado to be that. And until like I said, you're waving at the team that they got their back to you, you're trying to get their attention, and all of a sudden you do something that gets their attention.
K-State
you beat them
was
once.
Similar with
yes,
Nebraska.
Agreed.
Nebraska's our big rival. Yep. Nebraska's, we have bigger fish.
So I don't think that was necessarily organic. Now, after they finally got Nebraska's attention,
then
it did play out a little bit more like that. But as far as the geographical concept of this, I think that the same existed with Colorado as it does with Iowa.
Well, Colorado and Iowa had similar histories before they started doing well, around similar times when Hayden was hired.
And they happen to be black and gold. I know it's like, a different it's like black and yellow.
Mac changed gold. It from blue to
that's true, which was that was actually a good thing to do. But the thing that I would disagree with Zach on is, I still think so it was a coach for Colorado that forced the rivalry with Nebraska. As he's right, the conference kind of massaged and forced the rivalry with Nebraska.
Someone said
and Iowa.
That yesterday.
But again, that was, to me, neither were organic.
Well, someone said in the Big 12, which is true, that Oklahoma is no longer the last game, so Colorado became
and then Colorado's like, we're going to make this.
But that doesn't mean I disagree with the point about the Iowa game. This will be a rivalry. No, this is the last game on the schedule, but let it develop. Let them butt heads. Let them, especially as Nebraska starts to build their program back up and Iowa continues to be good. If they have those clashes, and they've had some little testiness going on, but as that continues to grow, that's how it starts.
Well, they missed the ultimate opportunity, Jimmy, and this is on Nebraska, not Iowa. That game that was on Black Friday, you missed an opportunity to make that game for the division, and that's where Nebraska was usually going in, hoping to get bowl eligible, but usually they were a few games out of actually winning the division. I always thought if Iowa Nebraska was going to take on a full-on rivalry feel, that those games at the end of the regular season had to be for something other than pride or possible bowl eligibility. It had to be for, hey, who's going to represent this division at Lucas Oil Stadium? And it never happened that way. And now that you don't have divisions, it's going to be tough to try to emulate something like that, because I'm not ready to say that I think either Iowa or Nebraska in the near future will be in a place to where they're playing each other on a Black Friday type scenario, and they're playing each other to see who will be the first or second team out of the Big Ten. I just don't see either program being close to that just yet.
But let's see how the next 5 to 10 years in the series goes, because that's the thing. We're basing it based on where Nebraska's been the past several, for a long, basically since they've been in the Big Ten,
right?
Sans a year here or there. But let's see if they build something, which I really do believe they are, and it's consistent and they're doing well. And if Iowa continues to keep that level and then some, let's see how that develops here over the next decade. Because, and I'm not saying, look, I said I disagree with you yesterday. I still do, Nick, but I'm saying I understand how things can change. You can have this conversation in 10 years and it's a lot different than even what conversations we would have had 10 years ago about whatever you.
Well, and I think a lot of people's definition of a rivalry is always different as well. I think certain people look at a history as opposed to certain people
like myself look at more about. Why was that a rivalry? Because they were great.
Yeah, because they were playing for something of significance when they would actually meet up. But I also thought that there's always an emotion component, that what type of emotions does that particular team bring out of you, and bring out of you even when you're not playing them, when they're playing someone else and they either win or they lose, how you respond to that. And so there's, again, a lot of different elements. We got to